the Fat Man GM. I am your GM, your game master for the day. I have 40 years of experience. I began playing when I was 12 years old, and my experience runs from old Dungeons and Dragons through Star Wars and Battletech, Shadowrun, and a slew of others. It's always been my philosophy that role-playing games and tabletop board games, gaming as a social medium is a great way for all walks of life to come together and enjoy camaraderie and exploring and stepping out of our comfort zone, if you will. So, this is your place at the table.
Alright folks, this is the Strider incident, another installment from Star Trek's fastest Star Trek role-playing game circa late 80s, early 90s, into the mid-90s. This particular one is called the Strider incident. Is the Federation at war with the Klingon Empire, or did Captain Reardon violate Klingon space to avenge her brother's death? While stuck aboard an R1 type defense outpost, the player characters are drawn into the investigation of the USS Strider's attack on the Klingon Empire. If the group fails to discover who sent the war orders to Captain Reardon, the Klingons will use the instant gain control over a strategic system in the neutral zone. In addition, they will take Reardon prisoner, and Klingons do not treat Federation prisoners gently. So, right, yeah. What we see. It's another nice module. It has its moments. Copyright 1987. I'm assuming that's for this, not for something for the movies. Introduction. Blah blah blah. So after a run-in with a pirate vessel, the USS Lexington docks at Orbital Defense Outpost 1121 for repairs. There is a crew the crew learns that a Federation task force entered Klingons space illegally and walked into an ambush. The leader of the task force, Captain Reardon, is awaiting court-martial at the station. After some investigative work, the players discover that the Klingons are using the incident to strengthen their claim to a star system in the Organian neutral zone. In addition to some existing evidence seems to incriminate Captain Reardon, who maintains that someone ordered her ship into Klingon space. Though her crew members have no proof, they believe she's being railroaded. Therefore, before he can deliver some new information to the player characters, a crewman on the base is killed. Though the NPC prompting of their own conclusions, the player characters decide to steal Captain Reardon's vessel and the USS Strider and take her back to the Klingon space, where they will search for Reardon's log buoy, which contains evidence that will either clear or convict her. Springing Captain Reardon and stealing the Strider will not be easy. Hindering their efforts along the way is Captain Curtis, the base commander, who seems to be the culprit who set the task force to their fate. Once the players group within the Klingon Empire, a bird of prey scout intercepts the Strider. Although the Klingon captain is eager to capture them, he allows them to depart Klingon space with the log buoy. The log does indeed show that Captain Reardon was ordered into the Empire. Some further sleuthing and a bit of computer wizardry help the player characters discover the true culprit. Upon returning to the outpost, the player group finds itself facing a Klingon diplomat, a deeply buried Klingon agent, the full firepower of the USS Lexington, and several court-martials. Can the player characters defuse the situation and bring the real villain to justice? Exactly. So we got the contents of the book, setting the stage, port of call. Of course, the USS Lexington is a ship of originally the Constitution class, but then becomes a refitted Enterprise class. So you are quite familiar with the Lexington. If you're familiar with the Enterprise, it's one of our sister ships. Captains and Commodores. Command Center player characters introduced to Captain Carl Curtis, who is a piece of work. Commodore Bram Harrison, Harmonson, and the Commander Gordon Davidson, Post Chief Engineer. Davidson ushered Chief Engineer and the supply officer of the officers' lounge discussed repairs on the Lexington. Blah blah blah. Dinner talk. When Captain Franklin's executive officers go to the outpost officers' lounge to dinner, they find only Captain Curtis waiting for them there. So apparently your player characters are the executive officers of the Lexington. He tells the group that the Commodore Harmonson is preparing to meet a Klingon diplomatic corps envoy to discuss the Strider incident, will not be able to join them. Curtis further says that he has little time to spare either, as he is in a hurry to assist the Commodore. Getting quickly to the point, Curtis describes how Captain Christine Reardon, commander of Strider, took a small task force of 3 ships into the Stoker system to attack the Klingon Empire. 3 small scout ships, mind you. And although her reasons for this action are unclear, he implied that she did it for personal glory. A Klingon fleet decimated the task force. The Strider was the only ship to return. Teller Court-Martial Christine Reardon is being held in the outpost prison. Curtis hints that Commodore Harmonson will probably ask for Captain Franklin to serve as a judge, because Franklin is a high-ranking line officer. Captain Curtis then turns to discussion of Klingon claim of the Taser a major system, blah, 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 blah. Private war. Strider was part of Task Force 13, a unit assigned to patrol the area to Defense Outpost 1121. The other 2 ships in the group, the USS Clark and the USS Vidal, were also Ranger-class scouts, small, fast vessels adept at reconnaissance. After 20 days of patrol, Captain Reardon was ordered the task force into the neutral zone under the Organian Treaty. That was an act equivalent to the declaration of war. The Organians should have immediately destroyed the vessels. That they remain silent signifies either their power does not extend far enough distant for Organia, or that the Organians are withdrawing from the UFP Klingon affairs. Captain Reardon took the group into a Stoker system in Klingon space, where they were ambushed and most of her small task force was destroyed. And so, planet divided, investigation begins. Your player character's job is to try to vindicate or to find evidence that the Captain Reardon was falsely ordered into Klingon space and into an incident that she was not going to survive or was lucky to survive. And to do so, they have to do some investigating work. Talk about Captain Reardon's story and what happened, how the ship survived, being in prison for treason, words were doomed. It gives you some abbreviated message. So she has part of the message sent to her, but the way what's left out makes it very iffy, because it could be easily twisted to sound like she's declaring something or somebody and doing something questionable. Crew of the Strider, none of them have actually saw the original orders, but they saw the aftermath and the captain's reaction to them, and so those that were present were convinced that she was actually ordered and didn't just come up with it on her own. Then we have the status of the Lexicon, status of the Strider. Strider is in moderate condition, and there's some points left here where your player characters, if they're going to steal the Strider, are going to have to do some repairs at the station on the sly to get it prepared. Was it an act of revenge, or was it a suicide or murder? Meanwhile, the captain's in pretty sad shape. The bold plan next morning is assumed that it's making assumptions that your players are going to agree to the concept here that they're going to decide to commit a potential act of war and or mutiny and steal a Starfleet ship and abscond with a couple of Strider's officers, including Captain Reardon, in order to chase down her ship's buoy, communications buoy, convincing the Captain Franklin will be unconvinced of the necessity to retrieve the log buoy unless presented with the following evidence, hashing out the details, third degree, jury-rigging repairs, fixing the helm, navigation, science, communications, planning the breakout, the getaway. In the process, there's one of the senior officers of the station discovers a very damning set of evidence against somebody, but didn't say who, was to meet with the junior officers of the Lexington, i.e. your player characters, and they arrive at the character's quarters to find him dead. And then shortly after that, the station's commander, Curtis, and the security team shows up, and then they have to explain what's going on. The getaway, a bit of a set of humor. One of the repair engineers from the station, Lieutenant Ralph Hoppelmeyer, was repairing the Strider. After he finished his work, he fell asleep in the Jeffries tube, doesn't wake up until a half hour after the ship's underway, and then just walks on the bridge. So you get act of surprise and how your characters handle that unexpected bird of prey. Once they get there, they're confronted by a couple messages or a couple signals, and one turns out to be a Klingon scout ship that's in cloak. Then they have to negotiate with the Klingon captain, who's actually more after another Klingon, the particular diplomat that's back at the station, and convincingly lets these people go so he can follow them back under cloak. Accusations, unmasking the spy, and it turns out that the Commodore Harmison was the one who ordered the task force to their doom, not Captain Curtis, and that the Commodore is actually a long-term Klingon mole. So there's a lot of that basic information for there. Then we got our background information for the world of Tazor, which is the system that would be contested by the Klingons trying to be gained control of it. Captain Reardon's actual log. Message incoming. Task force execute Klingon star player must not know engaged, blah blah. And then the other half, personal records, Starfleet records on the various members of that your player characters might want to investigate. And we've got our map. There's the Orion neutrality zone with Rigel at the center. So here's the defense post, Tazor. So you can see, the triangles way over here. Now this is a fairly important section of space between the Klingons and the Federation. So we have our stats. Here's the Enterprise. Here's the Ranger class scout. And then the Ranger class scouts breakdown. One of the reasons I always enjoyed these modules and these things, because they gave us an internal glimpse at some of these ship classes that would allow for future play and adventures and applications. Bird of prey, scout. Then we got our cast of characters. So some of these can be utilized as characters for the players, but most of these are going to be key NPCs or side or filler for what you need to do and what you need to achieve. A lot of investigating in these modules. It's definitely a different style of play from what you would play traditionally in Star Wars. Yeah, just keeps right on rolling along. Game Master notes. Victory point allocation, results, floating rumors, special considerations, mechanics of play, judging the action, further actual log entries. So the actual log is message incoming, code red 1A to Commander of Task Force 13, execute your emergency war orders. United Federation plans to declare war on the Klingon Empire. Starfleet Command orders you to depart for the Stoker system. Enemy forces must not know your movements. You are to engage and destroy any and all enemy forces until Task Force 19 links up with your force. All communications are silenced. See, so isn't that, considering what everybody knows about how how the Federation generally handles things, it doesn't go around declaring random war. So perhaps that was one thing that Captain Reardon failed to decide to check on. She should have gotten confirmation from another source or inquired through discrete channels and got it confirmed, because obviously something was going on there that shouldn't. But we'll never know. That's kind of part and parcel what your player characters are going to try to find out. Not a bad system, or not a bad module.